channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. Alright, feel free to list your favourite horror films in the YouTube comments, because I'm a bit of a horror fan, and recently me and Lenny, the wife, watched both X and Pearl. I won't tell you anything about them, but if you're a horror fan, there are two movies by Ty West that I think you might like. Thanks to David Beebe for the recommendation on X. Beebs, go and watch Pearl. Anyway, so I was thinking today, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do, but I was just turned on the Quad Cortex, and I was like thinking, what is the coolest thing about this? And I think for me, I found quite quickly what it was. So thank you for everyone who had the very kind response about the kind of Fender Pro Reverb thing I did. I had the #1 1965 Fender Pro Reverb that was #1 that came off the production line in 1965. Jake's amp, cheers Jake, and a couple of you guys asked if I would capture it whilst I was here, or profile it, whatever you want to call it, so I did. So that capture is in here, and I thought, okay, well, what can I do with that? And I built it into a stereo kind of rig. Loads of things now, it seems, can do this profiling thing, and I don't necessarily think it's the most unique feature in the world. Obviously, Kemper have been doing it for a decade or more. Fractal have a tone match thing as well, and there's, you know, Tone X is the latest thing, Tone E. The cool thing about the Quad Cortex captures is they take 5 minutes, no matter what they are, so that's kind of nice. The Kemper was even quicker than that, but here's the #1 thing that I think is cool. So what I really like is building presets myself on any kind of device, so Fractal, on the Quad Cortex, all of this sort of stuff. But what is quite cool is with the Quad Cortex, you can then condense those things that you've built into one kind of thing. So in terms of combining tones that I've created elsewhere, I can do this with the Quad Cortex in a way that I can't do with any other device. Now, they might not be 100% accurate or whatever, but they're accurate enough that I can get a vibe from them, right? So for instance, in this preset that I'll show you in a second, what I've got is two of the Fender Pro reverbs kind of in a stereo configuration. And I thought, well, what if on a foot switch, I could just switch in my Eric Lead preset. Now on the actual Helix where this was originally created, this took a compressor block, it took a drive block, it took an amp block, and it took an IR block. So that would have been 4 blocks. So if I want to combine that on an HX Stomp, I have to kind of do snapshots and stuff and maybe make a bit of a compromise. If I'm on the Helix, I can combine it with sort of one other amp and have maybe a clean and maybe a drive and all that sort of stuff. But in the Quad Cortex, I can combine it with pretty much anything because it just exists in this one little block, and I just add some delay or reverb to it. So it's a really interesting way to sort of combine these things that can come from other sources. Like the Quad Cortex doesn't care where the capture has come from, or whether it's from a real amp, whether it's from a modeler, whether it's from Neural DSP's own plugins. So this is a really, I think, cool way to condense a longer chain down into one smaller capture, and then you can put together super versatile chains of stuff. That's what I think is the coolest thing about the Quad Cortex, aside from the looper being detached from the grid, which is probably my other favorite thing. I wouldn't necessarily recommend going out and buying a Quad Cortex right away. I still think there's stuff that is lacking compared to some other modelers, but it doesn't really matter what I think in that regard anyway, because probably if you're watching this, you've already got one. So the idea with getting one of these again was that I could just make some things that maybe you would like to play with. So this preset, the Fender Pro Reverb and more, has that Fender Pro Reverb capture in it, as well as my Eric Lead preset in it, and you can kind of switch between the two. I don't know, I'm going to check the manual for this. Is there a way that you can customize like colors on foot switches and the names that appear on here? Because if you put more than one thing, it just turns into multiple devices. So I just have to remember which is on which. It would be better if I could actually label these, I feel, but I don't know if you can do that yet. Anyway, so that was just, I wanted to make a little video on that really. Just thought that was a really cool thing about the Quad Cortex, combining your tones that may come from other devices, but this can be like an interesting sort of library of your captures that could come from real amps, it could come from other modelers, but you can actually effectively use them all in the same, or not all of them, but you can use multiples. So I've got 4 captures in here in one preset, and it's really easy to do that sort of thing. So this is a little bit unlike any other modeler in that regard, and I think that's the most unique thing about it, being able to condense longer signal chains down into this one small thing. I think it's a really cool idea, and one thing that the Kemper does not really do, because you can only run one of those at a time. So let me know your thoughts on that. I'll catch you in another video soon. Let me know in the comments if you want me to drop this into the cloud. I'll be happy to do so. Please, I don't get any support from Neural or anyone like that, so feel free to share this video around. I'm making them specifically because I didn't think that there was enough people doing videos with the Quad Cortex, possibly because they can't make any money from them. So this is literally because I want you to A, watch the video, and B, get something out of it. So that will be a preset that you can grab in the cloud if you want, but feel free to share this around if you want to share it to the Discord, comment other people that have a Quad Cortex or whatever. Just, you know, make it worth my while for doing these kind of videos, if you wouldn't mind. Cheers for now.